The Council of Doubt. The vast chamber of the Galactic Council stretched endlessly above Alex, its domed ceiling shimmering with holographic star maps and pulsating constellations. He adjusted his suit, a relic of Earth's Arctic business attire, and took a deep breath, his heart hammering in his chest. The air here smelled sterile, a mix of metal and ozone, so unlike the vibrant, rich atmosphere of Earth. Standing beside him was Dr. Hannah Sato, Earth's foremost xenologist. She clutched her datapad like a lifeline, her fingers trembling slightly. This was Earth's moment, its long-awaited induction into the Galactic Concord, the federation of the universe's most advanced civilizations. Rows upon rows of alien species filled the chamber, their forms a kaleidoscope of the unimaginable. Sectoid diplomats chittered in their insectoid dialects, their multifaceted eyes glowing faintly. The crystalline beings of the Glyssari refracted the council's light, creating dazzling rainbows across the room. And then there were the Vaereth, hulking reptilian creatures whose gazes carried a mix of amusement and disdain as they focused on the two humans standing at the central podium. A hush fell over the room as High Chancellor Krellis, a towering figure with silvery skin and a crown of bioluminescent spines, raised a hand. "Representatives of Earth," he intoned, his voice echoing through the chamber, "you have petitioned for membership in the Galactic Concord. Today, we assess your worthiness." Alex cleared his throat and stepped forward. "Honored members of the Galactic Concord, we stand here as representatives of humanity, a species eager to contribute to the greater good of the galaxy." A low murmur rippled through the assembly. One of the Vaereth leaned forward, his scaled lips curling into a sneer. "Humans," he growled, his voice dripping with contempt. "Fragile, carbon-based creatures barely out of their planetary cradle. What could your kind possibly offer to the Concord?" Alex held his ground, but he could feel the weight of their skepticism. Humanity's achievements, monumental to those who had lived them, seemed trivial to these beings who had conquered the stars millennia ago. Dr. Sato stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "We offer our resilience, our ingenuity, and our spirit. Humanity has faced countless challenges on our homeworld and prevailed. We believe these qualities can benefit the Concord." The sectoids clicked among themselves, their antennae twitching. A Glyssari ambassador emitted a soft, melodic hum, but it was the Vaereth delegate who laughed, a deep, guttural sound that echoed through the chamber. "Resilience? Ingenuity? Spirit," he mocked. "These are the boasts of the weak. Show us something tangible, something that proves your species is worthy of standing among us." High Chancellor Krellis nodded. "A fair request. Earth representatives, do you have evidence to support your claims?" Dr. Sato hesitated, glancing at Alex. He gave her a slight nod. "We do," she said, her voice firm. She tapped a series of commands into her datapad, and the chamber's holographic projectors sprang to life. A rotating image of Earth appeared, its blue and green surface a stark contrast to the sterile metal and synthetic environments of the council chamber. "This is our home," Dr. Sato began, "a planet that has shaped us, challenged us, and made us who we are. But it's not just our history or culture that defines us. It's our environment. I present to you Earth's atmosphere." The image zoomed in, displaying a detailed analysis of Earth's air composition. Nitrogen, oxygen, argon, carbon dioxide. The numbers and percentages floated in midair. The council members leaned forward, their expressions ranging from curiosity to skepticism. And the Vaereth delegate barked. "What is so extraordinary about your atmosphere?" Dr. Sato smiled faintly. "What makes our atmosphere extraordinary is its lethal potential to others." A murmur spread through the chamber. "Oxygen, the very element that sustains our life, is a highly reactive substance. It corrodes, combusts, and destabilizes. For most of you, prolonged exposure would result in cellular damage, organ failure, or death. And yet, we thrive in it." The Vaereth delegate's sneer faltered. The sectoids clicked nervously, their antennae retracting slightly. Even High Chancellor Krullus's bioluminescent spines dimmed as he processed the information. "But there's more," Dr. Sato continued, her voice gaining strength. "Our bodies are adapted to withstand extreme conditions. We endure environments that would annihilate most life forms: intense heat, freezing cold, high pressures, and more. And we innovate. When nature presents a challenge, we rise to meet it. We don't just survive, we evolve." Alex stepped forward, his voice steady. "We understand your skepticism. Compared to your civilizations, we are young, inexperienced. But we are also relentless. When faced with obstacles, we do not retreat. We push forward, often at great cost, because that's who we are. That is what humanity brings to the table." The room fell silent. For a moment, Alex feared they had failed. Then, slowly, High Chancellor Krullus rose from his seat. "Your words are compelling," he said. "But words alone are not enough. We require demonstration. Show us the strength of humanity, not just in words, but in action." The challenge hung in the air like a storm cloud. Alex met Dr. Seto's gaze, and she gave a small nod. "We accept," he said, his voice resolute. As the council adjourned, Alex felt a mix of relief and trepidation. Earth's future now hinged on their ability to prove their worth to the galaxy. And as he looked out at the sea of alien faces, he couldn't help but feel that this was only the beginning of something far greater and far more dangerous than anyone on Earth could have imagined. The test of fire. The glow of Earth's holographic projection faded as the Galactic Council chamber emptied, leaving behind an eerie silence. Alex and Dr. Seto stood alone at the podium, exchanging tense glances. The Vaereth delegation had departed without another word, their towering forms casting long shadows across the chamber as they exited. Alex let out a long breath. "I don't think we impressed them as much as we hoped." Dr. Seto frowned, flicking through data on her pad. "We rattled them. That's a start. But they're not going to let us in without a trial." As if on cue, a soft chime echoed across the chamber, and High Chancellor Krullus's image shimmered to life in front of them. His holographic form towered over the humans, and though his face betrayed no emotion, the faint pulsating of his spines hinted at his curiosity. "Earth representatives," he began, "the Galactic Concord does not take new members lightly. You must prove that humanity can endure the galaxy's challenges. Your words spoke of resilience and ingenuity. Now you must demonstrate it." Alex squared his shoulders. "We're ready." Krullus's eyes narrowed slightly. "Your trial will take place on the Crucible, a contested world where survival is a privilege, not a right. It is a proving ground for species vying for favor within the Concord. Succeed, and Earth's place among the stars will be assured. Fail." The unspoken consequence hung heavy in the air. "When do we begin?" Dr. Seto asked. Krullus's hologram flickered slightly. "You leave immediately." Before Alex could protest, the chamber dissolved around them in a flash of light. The Crucible, landing among giants. The transition was jarring. One moment Alex was standing on the pristine council floor, and the next, he was stumbling onto hard-packed ground beneath a burning alien sun. The air was thick and humid, buzzing faintly with unseen life. Towering, jagged mountains loomed in the distance, their peaks crowned with swirling red clouds. Dr. Seto appeared beside him, shielding her eyes as she adjusted to the sudden shift in environment. "I guess this is the Crucible," she muttered. A deep, resonant roar rumbled across the landscape, shaking the ground beneath their feet. Alex spun around to see a massive quadrupedal beast cresting a nearby ridge. Its body was encased in thick, glistening scales, and two curved horns jutted from its head, crackling faintly with bioelectricity. "Friendly?" Alex asked, his voice tight. "Not likely." Dr. Seto glanced at her datapad, but the screen flickered uselessly. "We're cut off. No communications, no readings. This place is a technological dead zone." Another roar echoed, this time from behind them. More of the creatures emerged from the forest below, their eyes glowing faintly in the growing dusk. "Trial by fire," Alex muttered. "I suppose we should have expected this." Dr. Seto's eyes narrowed. "Look carefully. They're not attacking." Alex frowned. The beasts circled slowly, as if sizing them up, but kept their distance. Maybe they're waiting for something. Before Dr. Seto could respond, a massive flare shot into the sky from a nearby hilltop. A series of distant explosions followed, sending plumes of smoke billowing into the sky. "Someone else is here," Alex noted grimly. "And it looks like they've started without us." The other contenders. The trail leading up the ridge was treacherous, flanked by steep drops and loose rock. As they climbed, Alex spotted movement at the summit, a small encampment surrounded by makeshift barricades. Inside, a group of non-human figures moved with military precision, assembling strange, metallic devices that pulsed faintly with energy. Other species vying for membership, Alex guessed. Dr. Seto nodded. "Looks like it, but they're ahead of us by a mile." A sudden cry rang out from the encampment. One of the figures, a humanoid with insect-like features, staggered back, his armor scorched and smoking. The towering creature from earlier had breached the camp, scattering the defenders. "Now's our chance," Alex said. "We can use the chaos to get closer." They crept along the perimeter as the battle unfolded. The insectoid warriors fired strange plasma-based weapons at the beast, but the creature shrugged off their attacks. Dr. Seto crouched behind a fallen tree, her eyes fixed on the alien technology. "That equipment, they're trying to stabilize something. I think they're mining energy from the planet's core." Alex glanced at her. "Could we do the same?" "If we can get to one of their devices and reconfigure it, yes, but we'd have to be fast." Another explosion rocked the camp, sending one of the energy devices flying toward them. Alex caught it just before it hit the ground, its metal casing glowing faintly in his hands. "Got it," he said. "Now what?" Dr. Seto examined the device. "I can modify this to generate a defensive field, but it won't last long. We'll need to find shelter before nightfall." As if to punctuate her warning, the sun dipped below the horizon, and the sky darkened unnaturally fast. Strange, glowing predators began emerging from the tree line, their eyes reflecting the moonlight like predatory stars. "Time's up," Alex muttered. "Let's move." Into the dark. They hurried deeper into the wilderness, the modified device emitting a faint energy field that repelled the more aggressive creatures. But Alex knew it was a temporary reprieve. Dr. Seto checked the device, her brow furrowed. "I can't keep this up for long. We need to find high ground." As they climbed another ridge, they finally spotted their salvation. An ancient, abandoned outpost perched high atop the cliffs. Its weathered structure stood as a testament to those who had come before, survivors who had endured the crucible long enough to leave their mark. "This is it," Alex said, his voice filled with determination. "We survive the night, and tomorrow, we show the Council exactly what humanity is made of." The beasts roared below, but Alex and Dr. Seto pressed forward. Humanity's trial had begun, and they intended to win. The outpost of forgotten giants. The ancient outpost loomed above them like a monolith from a forgotten era. The walls were scarred, bearing the marks of battles long past. Cracks webbed through the stone-like material, and faded sigils of unknown origin lined the entrance. Alex and Dr. Seto climbed the final steps cautiously, the weight of unseen eyes pressing down on them with every movement. As they crossed into the outpost, the wind whispered through the hollow structure, carrying with it faint echoes of the past. Dr. Seto ran her hand along the wall, brushing away centuries of dust. "Whoever built this, they left in a hurry," she observed, her voice hushed as if afraid of disturbing the lingering spirits. Alex tightened his grip on the salvaged energy device. Or they didn't leave at all. The doorway creaked open further, revealing a large circular chamber at the heart of the structure. The remnants of old technology lay scattered across the floor. Broken consoles, shattered glass displays, and twisted remnants of metallic frameworks. In the center, an ancient holographic projector flickered weakly, casting faint blue shadows across the room. Dr. Seto knelt by the projector, carefully brushing away the debris. "I think I can get this working," she said, pulling a small tool from her utility belt. Sparks flew as she connected the damaged circuits, and the machine groaned to life. A ghostly figure appeared in the center of the room. Tall, slender, and distinctly alien. The figure wore an elaborate robe and carried a staff adorned with glowing orbs. Its face was obscured, but its voice resonated throughout the chamber in a long-forgotten tongue. "What's it saying?" Alex asked, stepping closer. Dr. Seto frowned as she adjusted her translator. The machine crackled before distorting into broken, fragmented words. "This is warning. The crucible devours the weak. Leave or be forgotten, like us." Alex exchanged a glance with Dr. Seto. "Well, that's reassuring." Before she could respond, the hologram shimmered and shifted, replaying the last moments of the outpost's former inhabitants. The image showed alien figures scrambling as massive creatures stormed through the gates, the same beasts Alex and Seto had seen circling earlier. The defenders unleashed torrents of energy weapons, but one by one, they were overrun. The hologram flickered and died, leaving the room silent. "Looks like survival isn't guaranteed here," Dr. Seto said, standing slowly. Alex scanned the room, noticing a narrow spiral staircase leading deeper underground. "Let's keep moving. If those things come back, I'd rather they don't catch us standing in the open." Beneath the outpost, the stairwell descended into darkness, the air growing colder with each step. Bioluminescent fungi clung to the walls, casting eerie green light that barely illuminated their path. "I'm starting to think this might not be the best place to hide," Alex admitted, his voice echoing down the tunnel. Dr. Seto glanced around. "Maybe not, but look at the walls. These carvings, someone built this as a sanctuary, not just a fortress. There's more to this place than we realize." As they reached the bottom, the corridor opened into a vast underground chamber. Towering statues lined the perimeter, depicting humanoid figures locked in battle with colossal beasts. In the center stood an enormous crystalline structure, pulsating faintly with light. "What is that?" Alex whispered, approaching cautiously. Dr. Seto's eyes widened. "I think it's a power core, ancient, but still operational." Alex studied the core's faint glow. "Can we use it?" Dr. Seto hesitated. "Maybe, but tampering with something this old could either save us or trigger whatever defenses are left in this place." Alex knelt beside the core, tracing the symbols etched into the ground. "We don't have much of a choice. If this outpost survived for this long, maybe it's because of this." Dr. Seto sighed and began connecting her datapad to the core, scanning for a point of interface. As she worked, the air grew heavier, and a distant rumble echoed from the tunnels behind them. "Something's coming," Alex muttered, drawing his survival knife. The first shape emerged from the shadows, a hulking creature with obsidian black scales, its glowing eyes locking onto Alex. Behind it, more followed, their claws clicking against the stone floor as they approached. Dr. Seto's fingers danced across her pad. Almost there. The creatures crept closer, fangs glinting in the dim light. Alex braced himself, ready to fight despite the overwhelming odds. Suddenly, the core erupted in light, sending shockwaves rippling through the chamber. The creatures halted, their eyes narrowing in confusion. The ground trembled, and the statues lining the chamber began to glow. With a loud crack, the statues shifted, their stone forms breaking apart to reveal humanoid figures clad in metallic armor beneath. The ancient defenders of the outpost had awakened. One of the figures stepped forward, raising a massive spear as it pointed toward the beasts. Without hesitation, the defenders surged into battle, clashing with the creatures in a furious whirlwind of light and shadow. Alex helped Dr. Sato to her feet. I think we just activated the outpost's security system. She grinned. I'd say that's a good thing. The battle raged around them, but the ancient defenders held the line, driving the creatures back into the tunnels. As the last beast retreated, the statues returned to their original positions, once again becoming inert stone. Alex exhaled slowly, feeling the tension leave his body. That was close. Dr. Sato examined the core, which now pulsed steadily. We stabilized it. This place will hold. Alex gazed around the chamber. I think we just passed the first part of the test. The question is, what happens next? The trial of the Warden. The chamber still thrummed with the aftershock of the ancient defenders awakening, but Alex's pulse refused to settle. As the last echoes faded into the cavern's dark recesses, a new sound filled the void. A slow, rhythmic clanking, like the footsteps of something impossibly heavy approaching from the far tunnel. Dr. Sato's eyes narrowed as she brushed the dust from her datapad, trying to glean information from the faint signals it picked up. That sound. I think we triggered more than just the defenses. Alex's grip tightened around his survival knife. You mean something worse is coming? Before she could respond, the opposite wall trembled, and a hidden doorway groaned open, revealing a corridor bathed in the same pulsating light as the core. Without hesitation, the two stepped through, following the path deeper into the outpost's heart. The Warden's Hall. The corridor led them into an enormous atrium, lined with ancient machinery, massive gears, and conduits running overhead like the arteries of some forgotten mechanical beast. In the center, a towering figure stood encased in stasis, a humanoid machine, at least 4 meters tall, with jagged plating and a crystalline core embedded in its chest. Its head, sleek and angular, bore a single burning red eye that dimly flickered with residual energy. Is that a war machine? Alex asked, stepping cautiously toward the figure. Dr. Sato's eyes widened as she scanned the readings. Not just any war machine. This is the Warden of the Crucible. Every record I found mentions it, but none claimed it still existed. It's supposed to be the final trial for species trying to join the Concord. Alex frowned. I thought the trials were survival-based, not facing ancient robots. Dr. Sato smirked. Welcome to humanity's luck. If the stories are true, this thing isn't just here to test us. It decides if we're worthy to leave the Crucible alive. A soft chime echoed through the hall, followed by a voice that resonated from the walls themselves, deep and mechanical. Species detected. Human. Assessment protocol initiated. The Warden's eye flickered to life, its red glow intensifying as its body jolted forward, servos whining under the weight of movement. Dust cascaded from its frame as it stepped down from the pedestal, towering over them like a god of war. Alex instinctively raised his knife, though he doubted it would make any difference. I don't suppose talking it down is an option. Dr. Sato barely suppressed a nervous laugh. Highly unlikely. State your purpose. The Warden's voice rumbled, shaking the ground beneath them. Alex exchanged a glance with Dr. Sato before stepping forward. We seek to prove humanity's strength and worthiness to join the Galactic Concord. The Warden's eye narrowed, scanning Alex with beams of blue light that swept across his form. Strength is more than survival. It is dominance. Show me humanity's will to endure or be erased. With a grinding roar, the Warden's arm transformed into a massive energy blade that crackled with violet arcs of power. Trial by combat. Before Alex could react, the Warden swung the blade, narrowly missing him as he dove to the side. The strike sent shards of stone exploding from the floor, the impact leaving a deep gouge in the metal beneath. Dr. Sato ducked behind a collapsed console, frantically typing commands into her datapad. Keep it distracted. I'm trying to interface with the core. Alex cursed under his breath, dodging another strike. The Warden's movements were slow but relentless, each swing of its weapon sending shockwaves through the chamber. Alex spotted a rusted spear lying against the wall, one of the ancient defender's weapons. Grabbing it, he turned just as the warden lunged forward. With all his strength, he thrust the spear toward the warden's core. The impact sent sparks flying, but the spear barely penetrated the armor. The warden retaliated, swiping Alex aside with the back of its arm. He crashed against the wall. The wind knocked from his lungs. "Alex," Dr. Seto shouted, but her focus remained on the datapad. The warden advanced, blade raised high for a finishing blow. "Humanity. Weak." Alex coughed, wiping blood from his mouth. "You're wrong," he growled, pushing himself to his feet. His mind raced, and his eyes locked onto the exposed wiring beneath the warden's shoulder plating, barely visible beneath the layers of armor. With a burst of adrenaline, he lunged forward, driving the spear into the exposed wiring. The spear lodged deep, and Alex twisted it with all his might. The warden's body spasmed, its blade flickering as its movements became erratic. Dr. Seto shouted triumphantly from across the room. "Got it. The core's interfacing. Hold on." The warden's eye flickered violently, and then, with a final shudder, it froze in place. The energy blade dissipated, and the colossal figure knelt slowly, lowering its head. Assessment complete. Resilience confirmed. Humanity eligible for advancement. Alex slumped against the wall, his chest heaving. That was unnecessarily intense. Dr. Seto approached, offering him a hand up. "But we did it. The warden's judgment carries immense weight. We've passed the hardest part of the trial." Alex chuckled wearily. "I hope the Concord appreciates how stubborn we are." As the warden powered down, the walls of the chamber began to shift, revealing a staircase that spiraled upward toward the surface. "The exit," Dr. Seto said with a grin. "Come on, Alex. Let's go claim our seat at the table." They ascended, leaving the quiet of the outpost behind. Above them, the stars awaited, along with a galaxy that would soon know the full strength of humanity. The arena of unseen eyes. The outpost's spiraling staircase seemed to stretch endlessly, but as Alex and Dr. Seto climbed, a subtle change in the air signaled they were nearing the surface. Each step carried the weight of the warden's trial behind them, yet the unshakable feeling of being watched crept along their spines. When they emerged into the light of the Crucible's alien sky, the sun had dipped beneath the horizon, casting the landscape in a violet twilight. Towering mountains stretched far into the distance, their jagged peaks glowing faintly from volcanic veins running through their core. The outpost now stood as a black silhouette against the horizon, quiet and dormant once more. Alex exhaled slowly, brushing the dust from his jacket. "We survived the warden, but I doubt the Concord will let us leave that easily." Dr. Seto nodded, gazing toward the sky where faint blue lights began to shimmer, distant Concord ships monitoring their progress. "They're still watching. The real test might just be beginning." Suddenly, the calm night shattered with the howl of something enormous from the nearby cliffs. The sound echoed unnaturally, bouncing across the rocks like a chorus of distant voices. Alex instinctively lowered into a defensive stance, scanning the surrounding terrain. "Please tell me that's not another apex predator." Dr. Seto's eyes flicked across her datapad. "Worse," she muttered. "It's another contestant." From the shadows, a hulking figure emerged, a towering alien wrapped in plated armor with spiked ridges jutting from its shoulders. It carried a weapon that resembled both a sword and rifle, humming faintly with unstable energy. Behind it, a trio of smaller insectoid creatures kittered in tight formation, their eyes fixed firmly on Alex and Dr. Seto. "Great," Alex said through clenched teeth. "We're not the only ones trying to pass this trial." The alien's gaze lingered on them for a long moment before stepping forward, its gravelly voice ringing out in galactic standard. "Humanity, I had hoped you'd fall before reaching the surface." "A shame." Dr. Seto narrowed her eyes. "Vireth," she whispered. Alex's expression hardened. "The Vireth. one of the Concorde's most aggressive species, prided themselves on military conquest and brute strength. For them, the Crucible was not just a trial but a battleground to assert dominance. "And who might you be?" Alex asked, lowering his stance further. The Vaereth warrior tilted his head. "I am Karez, commander of the Bloodblades. This is not your proving ground, human. Leave while you can." Alex smirked despite the tension. "I think we've earned our place here." Karez's lip curled into a sneer. "We shall see." With a sharp gesture, the Vaereth's insectoid companions leaped forward, skittering toward Alex and Dr. Sato with blinding speed. Clash in the Crucible. Alex barely had time to react as the first of the creatures lunged, mandibles snapping inches from his face. He ducked, driving his blade upward in a swift arc. The creature screeched as the blade pierced its carapace, collapsing with a final twitch. Dr. Sato activated the salvaged energy device, unleashing a pulse that sent the second creature flying backward. Sparks crackled around it, disorienting the alien insect long enough for Alex to finish it off with a precise strike. But Karez was already moving. With a roar, he covered the distance between them in seconds, his massive blade arcing toward Alex. The force of the swing sent shockwaves rippling through the ground, and Alex barely managed to sidestep the blow. "You move well," Karez growled, his blade carving a deep trench into the rock. "But you are fragile." Alex tightened his grip, feeling the weight of exhaustion creeping into his limbs. "Fragile enough to beat your pets," he shot back. Karez lunged again, and their weapons met with a flash of sparks. Alex felt his arm tremble under the weight of the alien's strength, but he held firm, pushing Karez back a step. Dr. Sato circled around, firing bolts of energy from the device she had repurposed. One shot struck Karez's shoulder, forcing him to stagger briefly. "Alex," she shouted, his armors weak at the joints. Nodding, Alex shifted his position, driving his blade toward the Vaereth's exposed side. Karez blocked the strike at the last second, twisting his weapon to trap Alex's blade. The two locked eyes, the moment suspended in tense silence. "You fight well for a species so young," Karez admitted, "but you cannot endure forever." Alex grimaced. "I don't need forever. I just need one opening." With a grunt, Alex disengaged and drove his elbow into Karez's midsection. The Vaereth stumbled back just enough for Dr. Sato to fire another pulse directly at his exposed knee joint. Karez let out a snarl of frustration as his leg buckled. Alex seized the chance, lunging forward and driving his blade into the Vaereth's weakened side. The alien warrior let out a guttural growl, sinking to one knee as blood pooled beneath him. For a long moment, Karez stared at Alex, his chest heaving with labored breath. Then, to Alex's surprise, the Vaereth began to laugh, a deep, resonant sound that echoed across the cliffs. "You may yet survive this crucible, human," Karez said with a smirk. "Perhaps the Concorde will find you less fragile after all." With that, he gestured to his remaining companion, and the two disappeared into the shadows without another word. Beyond the trial, Alex let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "I didn't think he'd walk away." Dr. Sato approached, checking the pulse of one of the fallen creatures. "The Vaereth respect strength, even from their enemies. You proved something today." Alex nodded, gazing at the horizon where Karez had vanished. Let's hope the Concorde was paying attention. As they continued toward the distant signal marking the exit of the Crucible, Alex couldn't help but feel that this trial, while brutal, had given humanity something invaluable. Proof. Proof that humanity wasn't just another fragile species reaching for the stars. They were contenders. And soon, the galaxy would know it. The edge of ascension. The path leading away from the Crucible's heart twisted through jagged ravines and narrow canyons, the air thick with anticipation and the weight of unspoken challenges ahead. Alex and Dr. Sato pressed on in silence, the adrenaline from their encounter with Karez fading, replaced by a deeper sense of resolve. The crucible had revealed much about their enemies, the trials awaiting humanity, and the fragile line between survival and extinction. But they weren't out of danger yet. As they climbed a narrow ridge, the landscape shifted. The rock gave way to fields of crystalline spires, glowing faintly under the alien sky. These spires hummed softly, vibrating in response to their footsteps. Dr. Sedov knelt, running her hand along the crystalline surface. "This isn't just decoration," she whispered. "It's technology, possibly ancient, but still functional." Alex glanced around, uneasy. Functional how? Before she could respond, the spires began to pulse, and the air shimmered. A towering hologram materialized before them, depicting a figure wrapped in layered robes, faceless except for a pair of glowing silver eyes. "You have reached the final boundary of the crucible," the figure said, its voice low and resonant. "Few cross this threshold. Those who do must face the overseer." Alex stiffened. "I thought the warden was the final trial." Dr. Seto's face paled. "The warden was the trial of strength. This is something else." A hologram extended a hand, and the spires around them rose, forming a circular arena. From the edges of the spires, faint projections began to coalesce, shapes shifting into recognizable forms. Alex's eyes narrowed as he took in the emerging figures. They were human, or at least, they looked human. Each one was a perfect mirror of Alex and Dr. Sato, down to the tiniest detail. "Great," Alex muttered. "I always wanted to fight myself." Dr. Seto's voice trembled slightly as she studied her double. "I don't think these are illusions. The Overseer's testing something deeper." The hologram's eyes flared. "Your greatest enemy is not the Virith, nor the beasts of this world. It is the weakness within. Face yourselves, or fail." The duplicates lunged. The battle within. Alex met his double's blade with a sharp clang, the force reverberating up his arm. He staggered backward, barely dodging the next strike. His reflection moved fluidly, mirroring his actions with frightening precision. Dr. Sato was locked in a similar struggle, her double anticipating every step, every adjustment of her energy device. "They move like they know us," Alex growled as he deflected another blow. "They do," Dr. Sato panted. "It's not just mimicry. They're anticipating." Alex gritted his teeth. His double's eyes were cold, calculating, devoid of hesitation, empathy, or fear. It wasn't just a physical test. This was psychological. The Overseer was forcing them to confront the raw, unrelenting version of themselves, the part that would do whatever it took to win. His doppelganger struck again, this time feinting to the right before sweeping low. Alex barely evaded the blade, but the tip grazed his leg, leaving a burning cut. He stumbled, and the reflection loomed over him. Alex's heart pounded, his instincts screaming at him to counterattack. But as he raised his blade, something shifted. Was this really the answer? Was defeating himself through brute force the point of the trial? "Stop," Alex said aloud, lowering his weapon. The reflection hesitated, its blade hovering inches from Alex's throat. "Dr. Sato," Alex called, "don't fight it. This isn't about strength. It's about understanding." Dr. Sato blinked, stepping back from her double. The reflection mirrored her action, lowering its weapon in kind. Alex met his doppelganger's gaze. "We survive not by destroying parts of ourselves, but by acknowledging them. Our weakness, our fear, it's part of what makes us human." The arena fell silent. Slowly, the reflections dissipated into flickers of light, fading back into the crystalline spires. The hologram of the Overseer returned, its glowing eyes dimming. "You have understood. Humanity's greatest strength lies in accepting what others would cast aside. Compassion, restraint, reflection." Alex exhaled deeply. That was unsettling. Dr. Sato shook her head with a tired smile. "Welcome to interstellar diplomacy, Alex. It's not always about who has the bigger gun. The overseer gestured toward the far side of the arena, where a massive gateway now stood, shimmering with iridescent light. Step forward. The crucible acknowledges your worth. Your place among the stars is earned. Alex and Dr. Sato exchanged a glance. This is it, she whispered. Yeah, Alex replied, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Let's finish this. The gateway beyond. As they approached the gate, the ground beneath their feet became soft, turning to shimmering glass-like material that reflected the sky. Stars swirled within the gateway's frame, forming the distant silhouette of the Galactic Council's chamber. Alex paused at the threshold, glancing back at the crucible one last time. We'll remember this place, he said softly. Dr. Sato stepped beside him. And the galaxy will remember us. They stepped through the gateway. Arrival of the Concord. The Galactic Council chamber rematerialized around them in a flash of light. The rows of alien delegates now watched in silence, their faces unreadable as Alex and Dr. Sato stood once more on the podium. High Chancellor Krellis rose from his seat, his bioluminescent spines dimmed in acknowledgement. You have returned, he said, his voice carrying across the hall. Few do. Alex nodded. We learned what we needed to. Krellis's gaze swept over the council. Earth has proven itself worthy of consideration. Let the record show that humanity stands not by brute force, but by something far rarer. Murmurs of approval rippled through the assembly. Welcome, humanity, Krellis concluded. Your place among the stars is secured. Alex and Dr. Sato stepped back, the weight of countless alien eyes following them. As the council adjourned, Alex smiled. We did it. Dr. Sato grinned. No, we just got started. The stars awaited. The dawn of humanity's reach. The echoes of the Galactic Council's adjournment still lingered in the vast chamber as Alex and Dr. Sato stood on the edge of history. The acknowledgement of humanity's worth had been more than a ceremonial gesture. It was a crack in the foundation of galactic power structures, and everyone in the room knew it. Alien delegates whispered quietly, casting lingering glances at the two humans. Some looked impressed, others wary. Alex leaned toward Dr. Sato. I get the feeling we just painted a target on Earth. Dr. Sato smirked without looking at him. Good. That means they know we're here. As they left the chamber, High Chancellor Krellis approached them, his luminous spines casting soft light across his features. You carry yourselves well, humans. But be warned, the stars are not as forgiving as the crucible. Alex met his gaze steadily. We wouldn't expect them to be. Krellis's spines flickered, a faint sign of amusement. Your journey has only begun. Prove your resilience not just in battle, but in diplomacy. Many will welcome you, others will not. Dr. Sato crossed her arms. We'll handle whatever comes next. Earth isn't known for backing down. Krellis inclined his head. Then may your path light the way forward. As the Chancellor departed, Alex glanced toward the Council's central observation deck, where the great galactic expanse stretched beyond the windows. The stars felt closer than ever, but Alex couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was watching from the shadows. The hidden game. Later that evening, Alex stood on the balcony of their temporary residence aboard the Concord station, overlooking the sprawling interstellar docking platforms below. Ships of every design drifted in slow procession, entering and departing like celestial leviathans, gliding through the black sea of space. Dr. Sato joined him, handing over a cup of warm liquid that smelled faintly of spices. Thinking about home. Alex smiled faintly, more like wondering how long before this welcome turned sour. She sipped her drink, her gaze fixed on the docking platforms below. It already has. You saw the Vireth delegation leave the moment the vote passed. They didn't even stay for the formalities. Alex nodded grimly. Karas didn't seem the type to let things slide. He won't, she said, but the Vireth aren't our only problem now. The Concorde thrives on stability. The last thing they want is a new species upsetting the balance. Alex chuckled softly. Good thing humanity has never cared much for balance. Before Dr. Seto could respond, a faint beep chimed from her datapad. She glanced down, her brow furrowing. Encrypted message. No sender ID. Alex raised an eyebrow. That's never a good sign. Open it. With a sigh, she tapped the screen. The display flickered before stabilizing, revealing a single line of text. Earth's ascension was not unnoticed. The crucible was only the beginning. Below the text, a galactic coordinate blinked faintly. It was nowhere near Earth, nor any known Concorde system. Alex frowned. Looks like we've got an invitation. Dr. Seto's fingers hovered over the screen. Could be a trap. Definitely a trap, Alex said, draining his cup. Let's go. Into the unknown. The journey to the unknown coordinates took them to the edge of Concorde space, a lawless region known as the Null Expanse. Rumors swirled about the place. Pirate enclaves, derelict warships, and ancient ruins of long-forgotten civilizations. The ship hummed quietly as they approached the designated coordinates. Through the viewport, a massive structure emerged from the void, an ancient station, long abandoned and drifting silently among the stars. Who built this? Dr. Seto whispered, her eyes wide as the station's shape became clearer. Alex leaned forward, scanning the structure's jagged spires and looping corridors. I've never seen Concorde architecture like this. Dr. Seto's datapad beeped again. Dock at the primary port. You are expected. Alex sighed. I really hate when they say that. The last of the forgotten. Docking procedures engaged automatically as the station's dormant systems flickered to life, guiding their ship through massive hangar doors that groaned under their own weight. As they stepped into the station's hollow corridors, a faint projection flickered before them, a shimmering humanoid figure, much like the overseer from the Crucible. But this one felt different. You are not the first to stand here, the figure said, its tone softer, almost melancholic. Nor will you be the last. But humanity holds the key to something long lost. That is why you were allowed to pass the Crucible. Dr. Seto frowned. Who are you? The figure's eyes glowed brighter. I am what remains of those who came before, a species erased by time, leaving only echoes. We were once the architects of the Crucible. Alex stepped forward. If you built it, why test other species? To prepare them, the figure replied. For what is to come. The station shuddered slightly, and outside the viewport, strange shapes began to materialize. Massive, serpentine ships emerging from slip space, their designs unlike anything Alex or Dr. Seto had ever seen. Dr. Seto's voice tightened. Who are they? The figure's eyes dimmed. The forgotten. They awaken now because humanity has changed the balance. The galaxy will call you saviors or destroyers, but the choice of what you become is yours. The projection faded, leaving Alex and Dr. Seto staring into the cold abyss where the massive ships hung in orbit. Alex crossed his arms. I guess we're not going back to Earth just yet. Dr. Seto's gaze hardened. No. But if humanity's going to survive this, we need to do more than join the Concorde. We need to lead it. As the station thrummed to life, Alex felt the weight of the galaxy settling on their shoulders. The Crucible had opened a door. Now, it was up to humanity to decide what lay beyond.